Welcome. Thank you for being here today. We are going to start our webinar roundtable on multimedia for client self-sufficiency. We are so excited to have you all. This roundtable will equip you with the guidance for choosing the right multimedia formats, whether that's phones, 360 videos, or full immersive virtual reality. We're hoping that this webinar helps equip you to understand your program's goals, connect it to the right media source that you will need for the capacity, looking at budget, and looking at scale for impact. We will hear from some incredible subject matter experts, and I will introduce them in just a moment here, who have provided us with an amazing first-hand experiences from the field of using multimedia in their programs. And with that, I am Krysti Nellermoe. I am the Senior Program Officer for Emerging Technologies and Digital Literacy on Switchboard, and I will be your host and facilitator of today's webinar. I'd like to introduce Campeon Ramirez.
Hi there. Yes, I'm Campeon Ramirez. I'm the program coordinator for emerging technology. Been on the team for a couple of years now, and I'd like to hand it off to Sierra.
Thanks, Campeon. I'm Sierra Arlidge. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Independent Living Program Supervisor at Refugees Northwest Foster Care, which is part of Lutheran Community Services Northwest, based in the Seattle area. So I work with unaccompanied refugee minors.
Thank you, Campeon and Sierra. We're so excited to have you and just to glean from your experience in this topic. Our learning objectives today. We want to cover three sections, specifically first, assessing your readiness to create multimedia content by considering your staff's capacity and budget constraints. Then we will select the best media formats aligned to your program's context and goals using a systematic decision-making framework, which we will also share in the chat for you to be able to use in your own time and in your own projects and programs. Then lastly, we'll identify next steps, key resources, and rough timelines to begin implementing your chosen media format to meet your client's specific needs. Let's dive into section one, assessing your readiness to create multimedia content by considering staff capacity and budgets. And if you would pull out your cell phones, we're going to do a little Slido. Think about a process, something that you have to explain to clients over and over. And in that Slido, name one process you wish you could just stop having to re-explain. Great, and we'll kind of look at the answers here as they come onto the screen. Still typing, still thinking. If I can just jolt some of your memories or some of your thoughts and brainstorming. What are those calls you constantly get? What are those specific tasks clients get stuck on? Or something you can just anticipate coming. With all new arrivals, we'll have to learn this skill or know how to navigate this space. Great. Vincent, I don't know if we can show the answers we have so far. Seems people are still typing. Just a quick brainstorm. If you have that in your mind, maybe we will move on to the next section, kind of keeping in mind what you actually have in your program that you have to explain consistently or anticipate a newcomer needing to learn. And with that, let's move to the next slide. So some key terms to start off. Oh, here they are, here they are. Beautiful. Email, online portals, and credentials. Yes. Continue complying with proof to get an answer. Teaching them how to access virtual appointments. Oh, that's an amazing one. That digital literacy component. How benefits change when clients start working. Very important. Lovely. Thank you so much. Passwords, oh, passwords are such a thing. Great response there. Accessing their emails, definitely important. And then registering for trainings or school enrollments and all these important skills that are technical and have very specific step-by-step processes that a video would definitely support with that. Thank you. Great thoughts. Let's move on to the next slide. So key terms. Campeon, will you hit us off with the key terms for this multimedia training?
Can do. We can go to the first one. Yeah, multimedia. So that'll be anything as short videos that we can view on the phone, laptop, VR headset, which will come up in a second. Basically, there's just a variety of media that we can all view on a bunch of different devices. Ready for the next one? Virtual reality. So shorthand will be VR. It's just when you have a headset on, it's like a computer on your face, puts you in a different environment, different world, just to help make a more immersive experience. 360 video, that'll be what's typically shown in VR and what we'll talk about a lot today. That's instead of your regular 180 viewing a video where it's on one flat screen, you'll be able to like look around through like a portal or through a headset.
And almost all the media that we'll be discussing today was made in a co-creative way. And this is where you put newcomers at the center of that design content. So newcomers are part of deciding what the problem is, maybe the script, maybe the actors, the reviewers, all aspects of that design. This is especially important for VR and gaming designs, and it ensures that their voices both drive and build how media is made and works. And last, use case, which is used in a lot of technical spaces, but is specifically referring to a scenario or purpose for which technology can be used. So how a user interacts with the system and achieves a particular goal. So these are just some of the key terms we'll be using as we discuss how to assess your readiness to using multimedia. And with that, let's talk about the challenge. So some of the challenges you all brought in. Accessing emails, trainings, understanding how benefits work when you get a job. Videos can be an incredible solution to helping clients understand the processes for some of these challenging aspects of resettlement. So, creating a brief tutorial and accessing that format ongoing is what makes videos so essential for clients. It also takes away the valuable time caseworkers use with meeting clients one-on-one and training them and giving it a more sustainable process of being able to send them a video or show videos in group trainings where clients can go back to that video. This is also helpful when clients have varying digital literacy and varying literacy. Videos can be visually focused and they can communicate the actual trainings more efficiently using visual cues. Providers actually can expand their capacity using videos. And we have a lot of examples of how we have all done that within our programs on this team. So with that, Campeon, can you show our next slide, please, Vincent? How have you incorporated multimedia into newcomer and staff programs from your experience?
Yeah. So when I first hopped on the IRC team before the Switchboard team, I helped with cultural orientations at the Salt Lake City IRC office, and that was just in response to the Afghan refugee crisis. There was a lot of folks that needed to be taught a lot of information, but it was just hard to get all that information out there all at once. So the idea came up to make videos. By the time I was brought on as an intern, I was helping with making VR videos of what it was like to live in the United States. So what schools would look like, what it would be like to ride a bus, what it would be like to go to a doctor's office. That was kind of just how we incorporated the huge demand, but also the very limited time that caseworkers had into a really cool tech intervention.
Thanks, Campion. Sierra, how have you incorporated multimedia for your projects? Maybe a little context of what the URM program looks like for you.
Yeah, so as mentioned in the beginning, I'm an independent living program supervisor for an unaccompanied refugee minor program. So if you're not familiar, unaccompanied refugee minors are youth that don't have parents or guardians or sponsors here in the US. And so my program becomes the legal guardian of the youth until age 21 in Washington State. So what I do is supervise a team of case managers, an independent living program, which is basically helping youth to develop all the things that they need to be successful young adults. When they turn 21, they're able to know how to pay taxes, or, they've applied to college and we've helped them do that. So we're helping them to think about what their goals are and develop those skills. So when it comes to using multimedia, um, one of the main areas of support that we offer is education and that transition from high school to post-secondary. And a lot of youth can come into the program with really limited exposure to post-secondary education options, especially what options are in the US, whether that's college, apprenticeships, four-year university or other career training pathways. So when Switchboard reached out to us to propose creating, a virtual reality video for our clients, I was very excited. And one thing that immediately came to mind was creating content to help young people navigate these post-secondary education options. I know a lot of the folks on this call probably work in these spaces of social services, and we wear many hats. We have limited funds, we have limited time. So we don't always have the ability to, for example, in my case, take every youth on a college campus tour. So my thought was, how can we make something that talks about what post-secondary options are, but we can do that at a home visit. We don't have to go on a campus tour. Um, and we can also get youth excited for using this really cool technology, where they might be hesitant to talk about, college, but they're putting on a really cool headset and watching these awesome videos and can get a taste of, that immersive taste of what a college campus or a pre-apprenticeship program might look like, also from the perspective of their peers.
Mhm.
So essentially, the project culminated in a collaborative filming effort with folks on my team, Switchboard folks, and then also alumni URM youth in our program. And we spent 2 days filming and made this incredible series of videos. So really exciting that they get to kind of listen to the concerns and the worries of other youth that might be in their shoes about going to college or apprenticeships, and reflect on those concerns and have that kind of voice of their peers in thinking about those things.
Thank you, Sierra. That was an incredible opportunity to work with your team to film those. And I think the core of it was that co-creative model where the youth were telling us, where does the camera go? Where do we stand? What is most important? What was most, uh, what was the most, or like hindrance or biggest barrier when I was entering that campus? And that kind of social emotional as well as like the technical and navigation pieces. So we're excited to learn more about that project further into this webinar. And with that, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with our video, but I do want to just talk about this video. One of the first immersive videos we made with the IRC Salt Lake City was a school bus, and it completely 360 immersive video where you can toggle around and see every aspect in a 360 degree of what a school bus looks like. And this was made for caregivers because caregivers have brought the need that when they drop their kids off at the school bus, they're not allowed to go on. They don't know where it goes, and it feels really scary to just drop your kid off at a big yellow bus that's only for kids. And so this was made for school enrollment orientations for the caregiver to experience what a school bus is. And there's archetypes within that bus, such as like the bus driver who waves at you, the other kids, kind of demonstrating what the behavior expectations are for that bus. And we did it all immersively without words, and it's just feeling and experiencing that space before experience it for the first time as a kid, or to have a cognitive frame as an adult caregiver for what your kid is experiencing and what those expectations of the bus are. And so Campion's dropping that in the chat. I do encourage everyone to click on that video, toggle it around, and get that 360 perspective. But that is just one example of how you can use videos to really create a training immersively with 360. Um, so I'm going to kind of skip this Slido since we can't play the video and move over to our next slide about readiness. Knowing when your team is ready to create videos. How do you assess that as a program manager or supervisor? Or even if you are working directly with clients, how do you lead up to your supervisors and directors? We need multimedia tools. So, Campeon, will you discuss how you went about determining readiness within your team?
Yeah. Um, so really we start with three factors. First one is patience. Technology can take a long time to either set up or learn about. So it's just having the right mindset of like, this is going to take me some time and that's okay. Willingness to troubleshoot. There are random problems all the time with tech. If you've
Yes.
used Zoom and Teams before, you already know that. That applies to all of the other fancier stuff too, like your headsets, phones, computers, laptops, tablets, they all have little bugs here and there. So just being willing to test things out, look up solutions for yourself online, or ask your team members as well to help you figure out things is going to be super important. Um, and last one is curiosity, both to problem solve, but also just curiosity in generally learning about new technology. Um, some folks are very cool with where they're at. PowerPoint and Teams are enough. But if you have the curiosity to go a little step further and maybe learn how to use the camera on your phone to shoot more videos, or go another step further and now you want to learn how to edit, or you want to learn how to show those videos to clients. That's really just all you need. Just like the willingness to go a little further and further to learn new tech so you have something to give to your clients. Really, you say that if you have all three of these attributes, then, or your staff has all three of these attributes, then you have strong staff readiness to start incorporating multimedia.
Thank you, Campion. Yeah, it's a lot of the social emotional and like capacity to just try something and a high tolerance for a little bit of risk and failure to just learn a new tool. And so we really determine readiness by patience, willingness, and curiosity. Those are kind of the framework for knowing, does my team have this? Let's try it if they do. And into the next slide, there's also budgets to consider. And there's like a reality with the resources and what you would need to start a media project. So there's the one-time hardware costs, such as cameras or using smartphones or a 360 camera if you take that route. And then there's ongoing software costs, such as using Adobe Premiere or some of the free softwares for editing or adapting those videos to meet exactly the need you're trying to hit. And there's low to no cost platforms for the technology, and we'll share resources with those in the chat at the end of this webinar, so you all can use that curiosity and patience and troubleshooting with some of those free resources. Um, and then to think kind of strategically, if you're a program manager or director, where can I add production lines into my proposal grant budgets? Where am I adding staff time to learn these tools or to get cameras or to get different software or subscriptions that would help your office or organization create media as like a standard within any of your programs and projects. Donors and partners are also a great way to explore kind of starting out. When we started creating videos in the IRC Salt Lake City office, we partnered with the University of Utah's media teams and multidisciplinary design teams, as they had all the resources and universities have all the resources, and kind of using resources plus the expertise of the office together to create media. And with that, I want to talk about a scenario. Let's put this into practice. So, meet Maria. So, Maria is a caseworker in a mid-sized city. Her team is also often stretched very thin, and every week the same concerns come in from clients and staff and find themselves having to repeat themselves over and over again. And her supervisor suggests, hey, why don't you create some videos? And Maria's like, oh, okay, let's create some videos. So, first step, determine her team's capacity to do so. There's no budget for making these videos. No one on her team has any professional background with making videos. And one of her caseworkers essentially shuts down the moment anyone brings up technology. The consensus from the team is that if they want to try something new, I hope it doesn't take too long. Maria reflects on her team's readiness and which media would be the great first step for her to explore with her team. So, coming back to our Slido, getting your phones ready. Based on this scenario, rate Maria's team's capacity for making media. And those three areas Campeon suggested: patience, curiosity, and willingness to troubleshoot. And we'll kind of just let the answers come in. I agree. Patience to learn new skills. Because once you learn it, you have it, and it goes faster and faster and faster as you use it. And so that I think I would agree with that first instinct there. Answers are coming in. Looks like curiosity and willingness to troubleshoot are kind of tied right here as second place. Yes, as Maria looks at the capacity of her team, it seems like a pretty low capacity at this point for jumping into some pretty intensive media making. So with that, let's move into section 2. So when you determine your team has a certain level of capacity, that really helps you select the best media format aligned to your program's context and goals. And we're going to talk a little bit about a systematic decision-making framework you can use when you've determined that readiness. Campion, I want to hand that over to you. When you're determining like what media format to choose, where do you start? What content do you need to deliver? Like maybe talking through the content with us.
Cool. Yeah, there's a couple considerations. First one is you want to focus on things that are process driven. So this is very repetitive tasks that can take a long time to show each client every single time and may need to be repetitive and shown again and again. So this is like writing out a bus or filling out certain forms. A super important one has been using a car seat. But it's very easy to show visually, which is nice. Um, Other thing to take into account is skill building. A very popular demand in all our time making videos has been job interviews or citizenship tests, as well as doctor visits. These are all things that it's just practicing how that interaction goes and how you want to speak to the people around you when you're in those spaces. Or also like practicing the actual answers for the citizenship test, things like that. It's just something a video that you can watch and see someone else doing it the right way so that you can also start to learn how to do it yourself. Things to avoid though, if it's super information heavy, you tend to not want to make a video. It's really hard to make a very engaging and interactive video. Um, if it's really just a bunch of text being shown to you, at that point, it is better to just talk to a person or do the regular, like very common PowerPoint way of disseminating information. But regardless of what kind of video you're making, we just want to make sure that folks are keeping co-creation in mind. So the best way, a lot of times, the people who know best to give all this information to new Americans are new Americans, and that's what we've done a lot. We work with a lot of former refugees or clients of the IRC, or also now staff of the IRC, to make a lot of videos for other new arrivals, for also other resettlement agencies. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Campion. And with each of these, there's a different video format that fits the need differently and better. So without explaining heavy information, a lot of our service providers have asked us to help them create DMV videos. This comes up all the time. And we're like, oh, the DMV, how do we do this? There's so many aspects to the DMV, and it's connected to processes before and after with driving tests. And so you can also look at a really intensive, information heavy scenario and build out a piece of it for videos so that you're kind of combining it with other training resources. And then that in co-creation, clients will also be some of the best indicators on what content to deliver. And so just to kind of talking through that co-creation model. So let's look at like if we wanted to show content in these different showing, practicing, explaining, and sharing ways, what type of media would we create? And with that, let's go back to Maria, our scenario. So Maria, every week has different clients calling in. We know her problem. They need to take the bus. They keep calling in. I'm stuck. I don't know how to take the bus. Someone showed me once and I forgot, but I remembered part of it, not all of it. and her supervisor has suggested to create a short video specifically for taking the bus. Maria's specific needs. The topic, how to navigate that public bus. The audience, recently arrived newcomers with limited English, varying literacy, but they mostly have smartphones, so that's an indicator for what media to use. The goal, reduce phone calls and giving clients something that they can watch when they need it and when they're available, and something they can return back to. But the constraints, there's no budget. And an inexperienced team that we all determined had kind of little readiness for videos and low tolerance for complexity with technology. So with that, let's just jump into one more Slido. What type of media should Maria's team create? Do we think, due to the low capacity, to stick with a written guide with bus maps and pictures, since it is information heavy, or a simple mobile video that's filmed on a smartphone, max 3 minutes, showing a bus process? A 360 video similar to our school bus, which is renting 360 cameras or using more high-tech editing software, or an AI-generated animator with explaining the process via avatars. If you were to guess, which one would you choose for Maria's team? The majority are going with videos on the phone, with phone videos, mobile phones. But the person who said AI generated avatars, I'm pretty impressed with you. Kind of has some high tolerance, some curiosity there. And then there's even a few of you who are like, let's just use bus routes and photos. So that was really helpful. Ooh, we got some more avatars. No 360. We even showed you a demonstration of a 360 on a bus that was effective. So maybe this team here on the 93 of you are a little nervous about those high technical skills. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, we have a few more that say yes to that last one. With that, let's move into our decision framework. So decision framework, what is Maria's team teaching? They're teaching how to use the bus. So it's process driven and visual. So step by step, how to ride the bus is what your video would want to show. So it eliminates written guides, which are literacy barriers and can't show movement or spatial navigation. So I would think videos would still be the best bet for a process-driven need, which a bus is. Number 2 decision point, is her team ready? So limited patience, some troubleshooting, low curiosity. Let's start with the simplest form of videos, which would be mobile phones. This eliminates those 360 because there is a steep learning curve and VR is very complex and avatars require learning that new avatar system and tool, which we will talk about. Decision point 3, budget realities. 0 budget, 4 staff, limited time. Mobile video tutorials is what we would suggest for Maria. And with that, I want to move over. Sierra, how did you choose the media formats based on your team's capacity? Like thinking about your team and why you chose VR. I'd love to hear from your experience with that.
Yeah, so this picture I'll just start off by kind of sharing. So this is a picture of us filming at our pre-apprenticeship space. So there's an amazing organization called ANEW, ANEW in Seattle that does pre-apprenticeship trainings for youth and well for anyone really. So we decided to go with the VR videos. Number one, we had the fortune to have Switchboard be able to come over and help us with that. So they came over and we were able to, spend 2 days filming, mostly because we had that as an option. And for you, that might not be an option for you to have Switchboard fly all the way out and do that. But I think just looking in your community and seeing like what you do have available to you. I'm based in Seattle, and so we have a lot of tech companies in this area. And so if you're able to look at your resources in your community and say like, oh, mate, there's this tech company here that maybe wants to have a bit of a do good line or a bit of a tax break, like let's figure out ways that they can donate their time or technology to us using, this kind of high capacity tool. So that's why we chose the 360 VR videos, is because we had that capability and we had Switchboard support in doing that. And really because we wanted it to be an immersive experience for our clients. that kind of draw, that pull for I work mostly with older teens, and so getting their attention and making them sit in one spot and learn something can be challenging sometimes. So our carrot would be, having this really cool headset, this immersive video that they can just kind of sink into this world and see the perspective from their peers. So having that VR video like allows them to really sink into the shoes of a peer that might have, had similar concerns or anxieties or experiences as them and live in their shoes and see their perspective. So because we were able to add on, kind of reflections, like inner monologue from our characters, the VR video really lended itself well to that. We also, had to think about number of available staff members. We were lucky enough to have 3 staff members on our team available and then 3 alumni foster youth. And that's part of that co-creation process that Krysti mentioned that we're really championing. If you can have clients that are going to benefit from this, be part of the process in creating it, it makes it all the more real and you're really getting their perspective on what would be useful to them. So for you, it's just reflecting on how many folks do I have available in my team to help with this, or youth or alumni youth or clients. Time, we had some time available. I know it's hard to make time in these kind of jobs where you just want a magical clock that gives you extra time. But we prioritized this and making it happen because we knew that if we sacrificed some time in the short term, it would save us so much time in the long term. So we were able to spend 2 days just filming with Switchboard support and with our clients' support, and then spent 9 months doing the production process, really Switchboard doing that with their help. But for you, that might look very different. If you're just have the capacity to make a quick video on your phone, that might take a couple hours, and then you can use like free tools to edit that on your phone. These days, with TikTok, you would be surprised at if you're working with teens, how much they know about creating a really professional video. Yeah, so access to filming equipment is part of that, right? Like, do you have access to a tech company that can donate some really cool video equipment or switchboard, or do you just have a mobile phone that you can use, which can work just as well for what your purpose is? Tech needed, like I said, we had switchboard support, which was incredible, but for you, it might mean like using KineMaster or CapCut, some free mobile editing apps, or if you're making videos using a $10 cardboard viewer instead of an Oculus headset, like we were lucky enough to get. It might mean just sending a video to a client via WhatsApp or via text so that they have it on their phone and can use it more than once. And so it really just depends on what you want to do for your team. But for us, we ended up going with the 360 filming. We had 5 to 7 folks to help us film. We were donated an Oculus headset, and we had 2 days plus 9 months to really get this kind of high-tech version of media for our project.
Thank you, Sarah. I think you make some great points about partners too, that you don't need to start at the highest level. You can start small and build that momentum and confidence because then all of a sudden you don't know who in the community has those skills will start popping up. And maybe even we've had many headsets donated to us from the community. So it's really a get yourself started and then see what happens. Thank you so much for those examples. But if you're wanting to look at some of the more modern topics, such as like using avatars or AI to create micro learnings, there's a lot of opportunities out there. Switchboard has just created a micro learning on how to use media with clients. And I think it's the same principles. Campeon, will you talk to us a little bit about AI and avatar creation?
Yeah, so still the same principles of patience, willingness, and curiosity are important when using AI. Starting with patience, still want to have a team that is willing to test out new tech. Having just the time to test out new tech and see how it works. Tools like Synthesia are very useful in doing videos in multiple languages and also just generating a bunch of media that you wouldn't have to shoot on your own, but it does take the patience to actually learn how scripting works and learn how to get the AI to do exactly what you want. In terms of willingness to troubleshoot, that still falls into the same category. Looking up online, there's plenty of videos and forums and a number of things that help you learn how to use these AI tools, but are you willing to go out there and find the information to teach you how to best use that tool? Or would you rather just not deal with it? That's where that willingness comes in. And also just a curiosity to see what you can create the more that you learn how to use the tool. There's been a number of people that we've worked with that we give them a recommendation for a tool and then they just run wild with it and they do all these cool things that we would not even have done ourselves, whether that's map making or generating images or generating videos, doing them in multiple languages, taking tools and like VR headsets and starting to teach kids how to use those tools. Just are you willing to do all of those things? Still applies with AI. If we can go to the next slide for our example of what you can do. I know there have been some questions that I want to circle back to later, but some of them have been related to what if we don't have a lot of time to work on these? AI just helps you generate a lot of media and a space where you wouldn't have the time to go shoot it yourself, maybe. Um, it's also still only good for procedural information. So in the same way I said the categories of what you would show in like a 360 module are things that are repetitive and are very visually driven, you would still want to keep them appropriate for AI videos, especially this training that we'll show you an example of in a second. The thing that AI is good for that would be a lot harder to do with the team is that a lot of different tools give you the chance to make multilingual content, which is very nice. Someone still needs to fact check that, of course. But it's really helpful for drafting a lot of those scripts and taking what you already have written out into multiple languages, where instead of having to wait for an interpreter to be free, and I know that's very hard to do, and it's very hard to lock someone down, you can at least start drafting things ahead of time and then have somebody look over it as you're making versions of the video. And also, the last part is it's very easy to make updates. Whereas, like going out and shooting a video, you only have that day to get whatever takes you need and edit together your best possible video that you planned ahead of time. AI typically tends to allow you to make drafts of videos a lot quicker. Um, and there's not really as big a consequences for making a mistake on a video. So yeah, if we could just watch an example real quick and then we'll continue on.
Oh, Vincent, it's on that previous slide. If you just click on I don't know if our videos aren't working here either. Oh, yeah.
Yes. We'll just watch the first couple seconds.
And even without audio, you can see this is an AI avatar. Also, we designed him after Campeon, who's with us, even though they don't perfectly
Go from
match.
exhausted
We
to efficient.
There it goes.
Transform your client communications using video-powered tutorials that streamline support, so you can scale your capacity and increase your impact with the clients who need it the most. The demand on
Cool.
caseworkers is growing.
I think
The
that might
time
be good
is
there.
And too much of your day is spent walking clients through the same simple visual processes again and again. The solution? Create a short, clear video tutorial one time and send it to every client who needs it.
Thank you. And we'll share that
Cool.
resource as well. We'll share that micro-learning in the chat at the end. And so, in addition to avatars and VR and phones, 360 is an interesting way to kind of blend the more intense immersive with the phone world. So, if we can move to the next slide. So, Sierra's team, to be able to have an immersive VR experience of different college campuses, as well as anew for technical training and learning how to use the forklift or different experiences that you would have in that training technical school, we had to film them with a 360 camera. But then all those videos are not just for headsets. They can be still used in WhatsApp text messages to clients, and you can still get a 360 view of a space without it being fully immersive. And so, Sierra, I want to give you a chance to talk about patience, willingness, and curiosity with your team, and specifically 360 videos that maybe aren't always going to be used on a headset.
Yeah, so and just real quick before I get into that, the example that Campion was talking about, the AI video generation, there's a really cool one that Switchboard made recently about URMs. It's like a URMs 101.
That's a
And
great
so
one.
that's a really great example. A lot of times we're out in the community and having to explain repeatedly who URMs are. So it's a great tool if you're not only needing to re-explain something for clients, but maybe other folks in the community partners. It might be a great tool to use to connect to other folks in the community or build those relationships. So, but talking about what we did. So this example, the previous picture that we saw with the forklift was at ANU. This one was at Seattle University. And when we're thinking about like what we need to do to make this happen, the first thing is patience. And so thinking about, as Krysti mentioned, does your team have high tolerance for trial and error learning and technical glitches? Can you roll with the punches? And I know that, for folks that are working in these spaces of social services, a lot of you already have this because you need it for the job. For us, our time frame for creating a storyboard and getting things filmed was super tight. And if you work with young people, especially busy students, you know that you really have to make use of their energy and focus while you have it. So this means we filmed a lot of great content when we could, and then we had to have the patience to figure out how to turn all that raw footage that we had into a cohesive story in a way that was accessible for our clients. So yeah, if you're doing this co-creation process, which I think is the best way to do this, and you're working with clients, it's having that patience to make sure that you know that we are humans and working with newcomers that may not be used to doing this kind of thing. It might take just a little extra patience to get that process rolling, but it's worth it in the end. Two, willingness to troubleshoot. So will staff persist when technology doesn't work as expected? We were new to using the Oculus headset and had to figure out how to upload the file, use the headset, how to tech troubleshoot. Like I said, we were lucky enough to have Switchboard helping us film, but for you, that might be, troubleshooting for the filming process. For us, it was mostly about the headset, like that troubleshooting how to make that work and upload the videos and make sure that we understood it well enough so that when we're presenting it to clients, we're not stumbling. Three, curiosity. Does your team get energized by experimenting with new tools? That might mean editing tools or other things that you might not be familiar with. So we were able to get Switchboard's help with using the tech tools like 360 camera, but we still had to have curiosity, and our clients and our participants needed to have curiosity in order to be fully present and engage in the process. We were lucky enough that our three alumni clients or alumni youth that were part of the process were very curious. They took time out of their busy day as students to help us film, be actors on the scene, be part of the creation process of like, what's our script going to be? Where do we want to focus on? Which parts of the university should we go to? What problems do you as students usually face? But similarly with staff, like you got to have that curiosity to kind of explore. My team definitely had that. We'd never encountered 360 video, and we're super curious about this really cool camera on a stick with a rotating lens, and like, how does that work? And where should I stand? And am I in the frame? So it was fun to be part of that. And I think we had all those three things. And because we did, we were able to make it work and have a good time experiencing it too.
And now those videos could be used on phones or in classrooms in addition to being uploaded to a VR headset. So they kind of have this multifaceted use, which is the kind of the benefit of having 360. Can still be interactive without fully being immersive. Thank you, Sarah. And then I'm going to go a little quickly through this slide. So bridging the gap is looking at fully immersive media. So that VR where you feel like you are in the space that you have filmed. And this is a picture of us filming a PE class in Sacramento with Afghan youth. And they felt that showing PE would be super important for newcomers because it was so different. And the expectations of having to change your clothes and follow instructions and run and being directed. And it was really important for that to feel fully immersive, that you felt like you were on the grass, that you saw the other kids around you, that you were in the uniform. And this is us practicing the scene before we filmed it with that 360 cameras on that stick. You can kind of see where it's getting the full environment. And these are the most intensive in terms of time, but also have some of the best learning outcomes as well, because that cognitive frame feels your brain thinks you have been in that space. And so with VR, which is why NASA has used it for simulations for years, you are actually practicing skills and creating environments in your brain as if you had already been there. And so I'm not going to belabor patience, willingness, and curiosity. We all know we need it, and you would need it the most to really film, edit, and create immersive environments. But the results of those also have the highest impact for learning and engagement and feeling as if you were in that space and building that confidence to go there for the first time. And Vincent, can we move to section 3? We're going to move right into section 3 just to kind of keep time with our webinar, 60 minutes. And as we hit to this last section, how do you identify the next steps? So kind of the now what, Krysti? What do we do now? What are the key resources, rough timelines to begin implementing whatever media format you have chosen for your team? And with that, let's go back to Maria and kind of see what she does. And so from choice to action. So Maria has to ask 3 questions to her team. What do we need to create? What is that content? What is that good problem we're trying to solve? What is that need? Next, who will produce it and how? That time Sierra was talking about, that curiosity Campeon talked about, the people that are the best room, that voice needs to be in the process, that understands what it feels like to not know how to navigate a place or how to identify something with whatever that problem is. And then when will we do this and how long will it take? So the timeline and that project management. So Maria, what exactly should you do first? So if we think through those questions that Maria needs to ask her team before filming a simple mobile video on for phones about how to ride a bus, which is what her team has identified, they need to identify their core problem. What is the main aspect of riding the bus that clients are tripping on? What is the thing that they keep asking about? What is that core problem that this video will help to solve or help that person navigate after watching it? And then what are the 3 essential moments that help show that problem? So if I'm storyboarding each scene, the client sees this, they see this, they do this, they know this now. What are those scenes, those moments? And then how do I visually communicate? This is the most important aspect of this video. So is that highlighting? Is that icons? How do I visually show that this is important? This is important. So when that client watches those videos, they remember that moment. And then last, what information do clients already have? How do we build off their already existing knowledge, which they all have? They have navigated so many spaces and have so much to pull from. So that's strength-based design in your video. Like, how do we just show what's missing and create an environment that they already understand? So they don't have to understand everything in the video. You put them through an experience that feels familiar with a little piece of new information. And then they're building off knowledge and have confidence within that space. And then there's also technology that you need. You need the tools, time, and funding. So what does Maria need, Campeon, when you've done so many film shoots and had all of these supplies ready to...
I will run through these really quick so we can get your questions answered. But in terms of tools, time, and funding, which we want to look for low-cost editing software. We will share a link that has some recommendations for that, but there is free editing software, which is nice to know. If you don't have a camera equipment, like full setup, you can always use a smartphone, and that's great. Low-cost audio tools. Phones are still great audio recorders. There are little mics that you can buy, or also this goes back into borrowing tech from donors and community members. Just make sure everything is well lit enough that you can see what you're trying to show your clients. Have access to video sharing platforms. WhatsApp is one of the most popular ones. YouTube is the one we tend to use the most, as well as our website. A lot 24 hours from media production. That is the actual filming, planning part of it. The editing will take a lot more time though. And we have recommendations for low cost to free software that we'll share in a bit.
Yes, and apologies again for the glitch there. If we can move all the way down to slide 53, Vincent, just with our last minute. We just want to conclude, actually 50, slide 50. We want to conclude just our key takeaways for everyone, and that is that we have sustainable, accessible media that your team, and you can go ahead and click it, Vincent, to get all of the information there. Yeah, so that your team has a focus on sustainability, accessibility, and collaboration. So if you have those 3 things, media is an incredible tool. They're sustainable, you can reuse them, you can change the information as you need it. They're accessible to clients on the technology they already have and use. And it keeps things collaborative and it keeps all voices important and in that kind of creative space because needs will change and videos can be adapted to meet those needs. They're not stagnant. And just want to end with some resources because we feel like that's the most important part. So down on slide 55, we have a few key resources that will help you follow some videos on how to use free editing software that we have in our VR technology toolkit, which kind of talks through how you would get started in a VR project. We also have our decision-making framework when you're looking to identify your team's readiness, your budgets, your constraints, and your willingness for selecting the right media tool. And so we want to make sure that everyone has those resources before we end today. And Campion's also throwing them in the chat so that you can access those. And with that, I want to thank you, Sierra and Campeon, for being part of today and just bringing not only your expertise and knowledge in the field, but also your curiosity and willingness to try new things and just dive into the world of multimedia and co-design. And again, co-design is the best way to ensure that your media is driven by client need and client voice, and that they're the end users developing the media alongside you. And with that, we do have a QR code, and I see only a third of you are with us, so we'll send an email follow-up with all of this information, maybe even some answers to some of the questions you had pre-registered with. But please take this survey. It does help us improve our trainings and understand your needs as service providers in the network, and we can create more learning materials and trainings that really meet those needs well based on the feedback that you provide us. Wonderful. Sorry again for the glitch. The QR code is still there on the right corner for taking that survey. We'll try to follow up with all those resources, and we'll just leave the screen on for a bit. My folks have a chance to take that. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's limited, and spending it with us for 60 minutes is such an honor. And have fun making those tools.
Yes.
Reach out to
Cool.
IRC for technical support. We're here to help you.
Resharing some of the links in the chat that didn't have the links embedded. I will also be sharing. We had a couple questions on specifically media that the Switchboard team has created. That'll be the one at the very bottom. Zoom is doing a weird thing not letting me embed links in text. So sorry that the links aren't very pretty, but it'll all be there. That includes the videos that we've made with other offices throughout the country and the ones that we've made with the sale team, with Sierra's team. Um, if there are still people on, I know there were some questions I was going to rapid fire try to get through. Like starting with, and these should all be pretty easy to answer, and feel free to leave if you all have to. Like we said, we know your time is limited, but with accessibility being more enforced in digital settings, how do you balance cost? I'm thinking of videos that might require audio descriptions. First, quick answer to that is sometimes we don't actually even do language in our videos. We'll try and go based off of icons and what we show visually so we can hit a wide variety of clients' needs without having to worry about translating all the videos.
Yeah, videos can accompany trainings and kind of be a refresher to watch. And you can also then accompany them with AI tools that can create transcripts and multilingual, like kind of add-ons to videos that are designed to be visual in nature.
Yeah,
So,
for my team, we just did a voiceover. Like we had one of our staff members voiceover in Spanish, and so that helped us to do that in that.
great question.
Awesome. Next one. It was, do you know of people who have created car seat videos for refugees? There are so many kinds of car seats that it gets complicated. I love to see some. This is a quick answer, and it is we do have a video like that. I'll be sharing it in the chat right now.
Settle In
Um,
also just created a car seat video that we can include. I will try to get that video for the follow-up email for you all. That is client facing, not service provider facing, but it is a tutorial on using car seats. And it's multilingual.
awesome. Also, this is really quick. This might be for Vincent. Some folks are wondering if there's an option to allow for the text in the chat to be copied so they can copy and paste some of these links. Other things, really quick, are how do you pitch to a tech company to donate time and technology?
Oh my gosh, I do this all the time. You show them the need. and you talk about a co-creative model and you have a very simple goal in mind and exactly what they can do to provide that. So a very simple ask. Do you have volunteer time that could go towards your corporate social responsibility that your team can help with? Do you have a specific resource amount that you need to help us do the specific video for the specific need? And so we've kind of aligned, and it really helps if you're using their software or their tools as well, which can be complicated and uncomplicated depending on if you want to use their tools. Sierra, you were nodding your head. Do you have experience with this as well, being in Seattle?
In other spaces, yeah. I mean, we're in the home of Microsoft, we're in the home of some other big tech companies, and we've been lucky enough to have them have folks like working within those spaces help us get access to like more financial resources. But yeah, definitely a reality.
Meta donated our first 20 headsets because we found their humanitarian branch, which they had a global humanitarian branch. Unity donated time and support in their Unity for Humanity wing. So every company should have kind of that like serving the community branch within that social corporate responsibility space. So identifying who the leads are for that is a great place to start. And to seeing what they have funded before and seeing what's important to them and see where that aligns with the goals of your video and your needs. And always go
Awesome.
through your external relations team.
Awesome. And really quick, next question is, are we able to film inside government offices, for example, for doing a video explaining the SSA office and getting an appointment? Do we need to ask the permission for advance, or can we go there same day and ask permission to film? I would just recommend just generally just any place ask for permission in advance. There's some public spaces where there's like a park or a sidewalk where it's just, you're allowed to film anyways, but for most spaces you want to ask in advance.
And we always bring consent printed out form for anybody who wants to be in the video that they have consented to their image being used. And developing those partnerships with government entities or public spaces beforehand, a lot of them have been willing, like schools, to bring us in, but they want it to go through some of their best practices and safety procedures beforehand. Schools have been hard to get into, but once you're in, they want the resources after the fact as well. So it's a great partnership opportunity. We're going to use these within our resettlement agency. You can also use these resources within your school orientation with newcomers. So kind of finding that collaborative overlap of the use of the media creates a really strong partnership and opens doors to using that space for filming. And there's usually media teams you have to go through. So finding that, starting those emails, and we can send templates of emails we've used before for that communication to be able to film in spaces. You need about 6 weeks out, I would guess, before you could really build a partnership for access. So kind of thinking that timeline has been an effective timeline for me, 6 weeks.
Awesome. Redento, last two quick questions. It's how do you balance the usage of AI with the adverse effect that it has had on our community, especially our vulnerable clients whom we serve? I can answer that unless you want to take that.
We do have some resources coming out that are specifically designed to meet that question as well on Switchboard. So do look out for our new AI resources, but Campeon, I'll let you tackle it.
Yeah. Also, I mean, just typically a good practice is not to recommend people don't use AI at all, but it's just to teach them both the limitations and the things that it's good at. People tend to overuse AI, and that leads to a lot of the over adverse effects about like client data being taken, or about, all these like data centers and companies trying to like, just build and expand because of the high usage of it. Teaching people what it does and what it does bad is actually a good way to get them to not use it too much and to prevent them from doing all of the, negative things about like sharing your own info. Um, so yes, it'd be hard to go more into depth here, but like Krysti said, we'll be sharing a lot of resources on how to avoid
We have a
those things.
AI framework for readiness within an organization. So the first step is to know what your data privacy standards are within your organization. So know how is your organization using AI? What is their governance policies? What tools are welcome and open to be able to use? And then never putting client information within data within AI systems. And so there are safe ways to go about that. And we have one resource I just put in the link, and we have more coming out with how to talk to clients about AI specifically so that they are consenting to its use and services. That's going to be coming out in the next month.
So, I'll make sure to share that link with everybody. Krysti just sent over. Um, that's the last one. Fantastic presentation. What tools are you using to provide these media products in different languages? Can videos have real-time translation options for viewers?
Real time would be AI.
Sure.
Um, and some Synthesia was the video that you saw. That's an AI software tool that we have used to make these micro learnings. But anything with multilingual has to be verified by a native speaker. And so creating transcripts, creating scripts ahead of time, having them verified and the language verified before they are used either as a voiceover or put into an AI software is essential step in just making sure that it is accurate and culturally correct in how it's being portrayed. The other part of the question, what was the first part of the question, Campion?
First part was what tools are you using to provide these media products in different languages? So essentially what you're saying right now, same tools.
Settle In within the Switchboard team also provides multilingual videos that are client facing. And so we'll be sure to share a lot of those resources. And they have Facebook Live events where they demo those for the communities. And those are translated by folks who are native speakers of those languages, and can kind of bring
Cool.
in the cultural and linguistic accessibility of those.
Yeah. So we have to wrap up here just for any questions on links.